2017 and 2018 seem to be dominated by injuries, and in 2019 it seems like you almost can't lose. Do you think you're faster now than you've ever been?
Yeah, I mean, I'd say I'm pretty fast now, but honestly, I didn't lose very many races in 2017 or 18 either. So, of the races that I did show up to, I won pretty much all of them. So this year just kind of feels like it's where I should have been the last 2 years, and just maintaining that good speed and endurance, but staying healthy at the same time. So this year has definitely been what I've been looking for over the last few years.
You've made the claim in years past that you want to be the best overall dirt bike rider. Your ISDE teammate Ryan Sipes is trying to make the same claim. Do you think this year's ISDE is going to be the place to settle this?
Yeah, Ryan and I are good buddies. Obviously Ryan's a phenomenal rider. He probably has a couple suits that are stronger than mine, and I got a couple that are stronger than his. But yeah, I mean, last year at ISDE we were both there as well, so we usually end up going pretty well, the last 2 years, him and I have both been at ISD. So usually him and I end up riding together for a few days because we're so close in speed. But yeah, I think this year will be a good one to kind of not necessarily settle the best all-around rider, because there's a lot of disciplines we're leaving on the table at ISD, but definitely a good showcase of a majority of them.
So you recently went riding on a KTM 790 Adventure, and from your Instagram it seems like you had a great time. Do you have any future plans to go rally racing full time?
Yeah, I mean, the rally racing thing's kind of been something that's been in the back of my mind for a while. Like I said in my post, the 790 was a ton of fun. We did the KTM Adventure Rally, and it's definitely not a race. It's just kind of a ride with your buddies and take some guys around and give them a tour of some pretty cool mountain areas. But yeah, honestly, rally is something that I've been looking at for a little while now. I've had a 450 with a rally set up and done a little bit of road book practice, but I haven't done any actual racing. So it's definitely something that I'd be interested in, and I've talked about with KTM, but it's one of those things where just kind of waiting for the right time and opportunity to do it on the factory team. I'm kind of in a unique situation compared to a lot of other guys that do rally, as far as, Toby Price and a lot of these ex-motocrossers that do it. They don't really have anything else going when they go to do rally. Either they've done everything they wanted to do, or that's kind of an opportunity for them to go, make a living on a motorcycle. Whereas I'm in the position where I'm actually, making a really comfortable living doing what I'm doing. So I'd have to give up something pretty good to go do that. So it's not something that I'm going to rush into, but when the opportunity arises, I'd definitely like to entertain it.
You got married recently. How has that changed your life as it relates to riding, training, and racing, and big decisions like what event you're going to go after?
Yeah, we did get married in June of this year, so just a few months ago. Honestly, it hasn't changed much. My wife and I have been together for about 7 years now, so not a whole lot's changed, just putting a stamp on it, really.
Very good. So, again, on your Instagram, you guys went jet skiing. I think it was after your wedding, and she was wearing a dress, and you look like you put something on to go jet skiing. Is your wife gnarlier than you are?
She's pretty badass, I'm not going to lie. But, no, I actually just had a sun shirt on, but she wanted to, I guess the whole latest craze with weddings these days is to do what they call a trash the dress the day after. Some chicks, if they're doing a country wedding, they go roll around in the mud, but we were on the beach, so we figured what better way to do it than go for a little jet ski rip.
Okay, going back to dirt bikes, in a typical long race like a works race, how on the edge are you for the entire race, and how many close calls do you think you have on the average race?
It's kind of hard to say. It all depends on the race, really. This last one we had at Glen Helen, I felt like I was in complete control the whole time. didn't have any really big moments where I was like, oh boy, that was a close one. But there was definitely a couple times that I got worried because there was a bottlenecks section where it was just a single track and there was only one line going through there. And I got through there one time super clean and pulled a pretty good gap on Zach. And then a few laps later, I got stuck in the bottleneck and Zach pulled the gap right back up to 0. So that was kind of nerve-wracking. But as far as like big oh crap moments, I didn't have too many like that. And usually with my riding style, I don't really have any moments like that. And it's just one of those things where I try not to ride over my head. But, you know, every once in a while you get a pretty good one. There's a track in Utah that we raced at last year called Sand Hollow, and that one's got a bunch of, it's in red sand with hidden red rocks in it. So that one's got a lot of what I like to call gotchas.
Are you pacing yourself and kind of trying to keep appraised of what your heart rate is or what your energy levels are?
Yeah, I would say that in a typical race, works race, that I go really hard in the beginning. I try to separate myself from the guys as quickly as I can. I just feel like I ride better when I'm doing my own race and being able to ride my own lines and not having to worry about anybody in front of me or behind me. So typically I like to go as hard as I can out of the gate and like I said, separate myself. But, you know, Zach Bill and a few of the other guys have been riding really well this year, so they've been a little longer than I would like, but it's made for some really good racing, and then it really just comes down to what I think is a fitness and endurance thing. Towards the end of the race, I'm just able to kind of keep that same pace going throughout the whole 2 hours.
How often are you riding a trials bike to develop bike skills or sharpen your bike skills?
I ride trials at least once a week. If I can get it in twice a week, I'd love to. Honestly, it's one of my favorite forms of cross training. It's so good for balance. It's so fun because it's a little bit more of a social aspect. You know, you ride with a half shell helmet. You can you can ride with people that aren't necessarily the same skill level in the same area. So, you know, if I go out for a trail ride with my dad, you know, I'll just do my own pace, and then I'll sit there and wait for him for a few minutes at the turns and then keep going. Whereas trials, you can just kind of be talking to each other the whole time, giving each other a hard time, and then when you get a couple guys that are really close to skill level, it becomes a little bit of a competition in itself as far as, all right, who can clean this section first? And then you always, if you get it first, you always have a fun time giving the other guy a hard time until he gets it.
You also do a lot of mountain biking. Have you learned anything on the mountain bike that translates over to the motorcycle?
You know, one thing I really like about off-road and enduro-style racing is that you can pretty much do any type of cross-training on two wheels, and I feel like it relates to, to enduro riding. Whether it's, you know, if you're on the mountain bike, the endurance aspect of it is obviously great. But aside from that, just if you end up doing, like this summer I went to Whistler and did the whole bike park and jump thing there, and you just have to be really good at timing and precision, which obviously comes into play on a dirt bike. And then, you know, next from that, if you try to do the real nasty downhill enduro style trails, it becomes a thing where line choice is huge. If you don't pick the right line, then you either can't make it down the mountain or you can't make it down fast. So I feel like all those things come into play with riding a dirt bike, especially off-road racing. So that's my favorite part about it, is I can go ride my mountain bike, I can ride my trials bike. You know, I even feel like riding my stand-up jet ski is good cross-training because you still get that same aggression and intensity, but you're just working different muscles.
Oh, that's cool. And can you push it harder on the jet ski because realistically it's not going to be such a downside if you crash?
Yeah, you know, I've over the last couple of years, I've gotten pretty good on it, where I feel like I can push super hard on the jet ski. And then you have that kind of safety barrier that you're talking about, where if you do crash, you just kind of skip across the water. Even though it definitely doesn't feel good when you crash, but crashing on a jet ski at 40 miles an hour definitely feels a lot better than crashing on a dirt bike at 40 miles an hour.
For sure. So when you're part of a big team like KTM, how is it determined which series and events you're going to do each year?
It kind of comes down to just myself and my boss, having a conversation about it. Luckily, I've been able to make a good enough name for myself and be good at enough different disciplines that whenever it comes down to contract time and we're trying to figure out which races I'm going to do, he's, pretty reasonable along with me, and we can have a good conversation about it and see what's going to be best for myself and for the company, which championships they want to win and which ones I think I have the best chance at winning. So usually it's a team effort between myself and my boss, Monty Collin.
So you said maybe rally way down the line. Is there anything a little more immediate that you're looking at to change up in your race schedule next year's?
This next year's 2020 is probably going to stay pretty similar. I'm right in the middle of my contract that I signed last year, so I have another year of doing the same races. So I'm just going to focus on doing that, and then probably around this time next year, I'll start assessing and talking to my boss and see what other kind of options we have.
Where does the ISDE rate, both in terms of how important is it to you personally and how important is it in your contract for each year?
Yeah, the KTM definitely, their focus in the United States is winning championships here in the United States. But with that being said, they put a huge focus on ISD as well, or they just put a lot of effort into it. I wouldn't say there's as much pressure to go there and say try and win the overall. It is more of a team effort. As much as I want to win the overall every year, it really comes down to making sure the team's ready and the team's capable of winning. So that's, that kind of takes the individual pressure off a little bit, but from the team side of it, from KTM side of it. But then myself, this will be my 9th year going to ISDE, and I've won my class the last 3 years. And after getting that first win, it's definitely pretty motivating to try and go back and do it again. You see all these great riders in history that have won multiple ISD championships, and it's just something from the very first time I went in 2010, I saw it, and I was just kind of amazed by how fast those guys were and smooth and consistent. And that's something I've really tried to shape my career around is being one of those top guys.
Can you tell me what happened in 2015 with a pretty controversial, a whole group of you top guys got disqualified during a transfer section? Could you tell me about that?
Yeah. It's all in good fun now because I wasn't in contention for any, class wins or anything, and we were out of contention for the overall win due to some bike problems and Caleb Russell blowing out his knee. But so kind of off, but it was really what I feel like a poor marketing situation where, a lot of times at ISD you have 3 riders that take off every minute, but you come to a special test, some guys might get bunched up, and leaving a special test they might end up bunched up again. So you have, I think there was 8 to 12 of us that left this special test about the same time. We're all riding together, and the track was actually just flipped from the day before. So the transfer section was the same as it was the day before, and we're just riding along, and I was pretty far back in the pack. I was maybe the 8th or 9th guy out of 12, and we're just cruising, and I think David Knight or somebody else that was really respectable was leading. So it's just one of those situations where you're like, yep, this guy's been here plenty of times. I'm not too worried about him getting lost. I'll just follow him. And we all just followed the track from the day before. Well, there was I guess you could call it a Y, where it went off the pavement into the dirt the day before, and the track for the new day kept going straight on the pavement. It was where they made one little change on the track for the whole day, and just out of habit, we just followed the tracks from the day before. Well, there wasn't even an arrow or anything there, and we all got lost. And then when we came back, to the next checkpoint, we realized we had missed a checkpoint. So we told everybody, hey, we missed a checkpoint. Nobody saw a marking, blah, blah, blah. Anyway, it turned into this whole thing where the FIM disqualified us, but then they put us back in the race. I don't know. It was a huge cluster. But all in all, we did end up getting disqualified because we missed that one checkpoint. But when we tried to protest, we asked the track inspector, we said, hey, there wasn't even an arrow there to deter people from going on the track from the day before. And the track inspector goes, yeah, I know, I got lost there too. And we're like, oh, okay, so then why are you penalizing us for something that you guys obviously missed and didn't mark very well? So it was just one of those situations where the FIM just, took their power ground and they abided by the rules. Yeah, we missed a checkpoint, but there was a handful of guys that got lost. The track inspector got lost there, so maybe there was some negligence on their part as well.
Okay, very good. So that was at the end of the calendar year in 2015, and then next year you went racing in Europe for all of 2016. Was that related to your trying to improve at ISDE, or was that a personal goal you had?
That was just kind of a personal goal I had. I'd been doing pretty well at ISDE for the last few years before that, and Fabio Ferrioli, the guy who runs the World Enduro team, he contacted me and said, hey, would you have any interest in coming over and racing the full series over here? And it was something that I'd watched Kurt do a few rounds when he was racing enduros, and I was like, man, that'd be pretty cool. I think that'd be an awesome opportunity. I know very few Americans have done the whole series, and definitely not on the level of a full factory KTM effort. So I thought it'd be a really cool opportunity, and like I said, my boss Auntie was cool with it. I talked about it with him a bunch, and I went over there and did it, and it was really tough. It was a long year, especially since I think 6 out of the 8 races were full mutters. But all in all, it was great practice, and it led me right into winning the overall at ISDE. So it was definitely, I think, worth it.
Did you have a sense going into that year's ISDE in 2016 that an overall win was very realistic and a team win was very realistic?
Yeah, I mean, that was all going directly into the race was pretty stressful because Ryan Sipes broke his arm the day before they were supposed to leave for the race, or the day of the race maybe, and we were kind of scrambling to find a fill-in rider for him. We ended up using Lane Michael, his teammate at the time. So it was really stressful. I obviously had my own personal goals. My goals since probably 2014 have been there to go and try and win the overall. So I still had that personal goal, but I honestly had no idea how the rest of the team was going to work out. But everybody did exactly what they had to do. They suffered through the whole week, and we had some big crashes, but everybody held on, and it ended up being a really good event.
That year in Spain, 2016, you're leading after 5 days. Did the final day's motocross track seem especially slick and treacherous, or was that just kind of what you run into at those events?
The final day's track was honestly very stressful for me. I was in a unique situation of, I was trying to figure out, all right, I want to win for the team. That's the main goal. I only have a 12-second lead, so I need to be very, very conscious of what's going on here. 12 seconds can go away pretty fast when you're considering you're racing with 40 other guys on a track that is insanely what I consider sketchy, because we're starting on pea gravel, onto asphalt, a right-hand first-hand turn, just so many negatives where I saw it could go wrong, and I was like, man, I just need to get through this one safe and not just try to figure out how to not lose 12 seconds. And honestly, it ended up working out better than I had even imagined, where I got like a second place start, passed the guy in first, and then just stayed out of the drama, led the whole rest of the race, and was able to win the event.
And then later that day, you're up on the podium, and I'm guessing you remember that someone yelled out "For Caselli." Did anything about Kurt Caselli flash through your mind when you heard someone yell that out?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, it had flashed through my mind even before that, because I know Kurt was such a big motivator for ISD, and he was a big effort in getting the program to where it's at now with Team USA and getting it to the point where it's capable of winning. So, I was thinking about that well before that, and then when I heard somebody in the crowd yell that, it kind of gave me the chills.
So then the very next year you win the E3 class, and then there were rumors that this year you wanted to ride the 250F and go after an E1 class victory. Is that true, or is that a rumor?
No, there was some truth behind that. I had talked about it with Auntie and said, hey, I've won E2, I've won E3. It'd be kind of cool to win E1 as well. And usually the guy who does the best the year before kind of gets his first pick at whatever bike he wants to ride at ISD. So he built a 250F. He actually just gave me one of Ben Kelly's 250Fs to ride for a little bit. And I rode it, and, I liked it, but I just found out after spending about a month on it that the 450 just suits my style a little bit better. Even though I'm a smaller guy and the 250 fits me really well, I just love that torque and being able to short shift and ride at really low RPMs. And I honestly had a hard time adapting to the 250F and getting anywhere near as fast as I was on the 450. So, with that being said, I still had the team mentality in the background. I didn't want to leave anything on the table. I was really only going to do it if I could go as fast on the 250 as I could on the 450. But I just wasn't able to figure that out in the month I spent on it.
And you think that relates to your smoother riding style, that you have to get too aggressive on that 250F to do the same stuff?
I think so. You watch me ride, everybody that tells me when they watch me ride, they're like, dude, it doesn't even look like you're trying. I can barely hear you. It doesn't sound like you're on the gas. And that type of riding just really suits that 450 because it has enough torque to pull a taller gear and be really smooth. Whereas on that 250, to go the same speed, you have to ride at an RPM. And I just feel out of control when I'm that high in the RPM. So it was hard for me to adjust to.
2019 is in Portugal. Are you familiar with the area? How much riding time have you had on that terrain?
When I did the Enduro GP series in 2016, we did one race in Portugal, but it was 3 or 4 hours north of where we're riding this year. I honestly have never even been to that area. I've done a little bit of homework as far as looking at videos and looking at just as much pictures and stuff as I can in the area. So I kind of have an idea what it looks like. It looks kind of dry, loose rocks, maybe a little bit silty here and there, which kind of plays into my favor as far as being a West Coast guy. But it looks like there's a lot more vegetation than we have on the West Coast. So I think it'll be a great race. We did our training camp a couple weeks ago on a very similar terrain, and everybody was riding really good. So I think no matter what Portugal throws at us, we'll be in all right shape.
What's the biggest improvement you see in the ISDE team this year that makes you feel confident going in?
Honestly, I think the biggest thing I noticed is just everybody is super motivated. It seems like when we've gone in the past, there's been, one, maybe two of us that is going there, with the goal of winning the overall. And this year, I would say we have all four of us really think that we have a shot at winning the overall, or at least winning our class. And, if three of us can go there and win our class, I mean, that'd be huge. I know that's a very big stretch to happen, but I think everybody's capable of it, and I'm really excited to go over there with those guys, and I think we'll be able to, as long as we keep it on two wheels and barring any disasters, I think we'll have a really solid week.